Man, what it do with it, world? It's your man's and them, the Toothless Wonder, a.k.a. Foul Shotman. Back with another installment on the Bamboozled Again News Network. Whereas I like to say, Negroes get bamboozled every day. But you down with the Most High, you be all right. Show you right. I tell you what, I'm feeling a whole, I guess emotions and feelings ebb and flow. But I'm doing a whole lot better today as far as just my internal attitude. It be like that. Sometimes stuff might sit on me at best about 3 days. You know what I'm saying? When I'm feeling the weight of the world or the darkness of the spiritual realm, you know what I'm saying? And I can feel it. But after about 3 days, it's still the same stuff. I just got a better disposition about it. But I want to thank all those who like, share, subscribe, especially those who comment, you know what I'm saying? I thought I did it, but I never put my email in the description. So if y'all got any topics of conversation, or anything you might want to hear my particular unorthodox take on, please feel free to email me. I'll give you a shout out. And when I make it big, I ain't gonna forget about you. Word life. I was just sitting there thinking, right? Gotta be just thinking about stuff. I don't really have no, this be more spur of the moment stuff, right? And I was just thinking about how, even when I was younger, I was always kind of set apart just in my thinking, or things just never made any sense to me. You know what I'm saying? And then you go through the path of, oh, I don't respond the way typically, the average Negro respond, no matter where he come from. So then you get what I believe at the time was well-meaning people, you should do it like this or be like this or think about this way. And then to appease them because, they're related to me or I believe they actually care, I would do that and it still wouldn't work out for me. Now in my early 40s, I'm basically dug into who I'm is. You know what I'm saying? And I've really always been this way. They say that whatever age you start using or abusing drugs, alcohol, so on and so forth, that's the age you stop emotionally developing. So now that I've been on this path almost 4 years, I've actually reverted back to how I was before I started using. I always was kind of like a loner to some degree, but I had my circle of friends that I built a personal rapport with. I never really grouped up with. That didn't make any sense to me. When I seen, just the thought process or the belief systems of brothers, not even necessarily spiritual, about what's important, what's not, da-da-da. None of that made no sense to me, right? And then even more so when I went out to the world and now I am using, I typically didn't respond the way someone in that environment should respond. You know what I'm saying? Like I've never told on nobody else. But maybe that's one of the reasons why I got a lot of grace and mercy in the courthouse. Because if I did, I just tell on myself. You know what I'm saying? I always thought, and I heard Charleston White talk about this, I was under this, nobody taught me this. It just was a factory setting. Just like nobody taught me the G code. Like nobody sat me down and say, hey, if you're doing something you ain't supposed to be doing, don't tell on the other person. Nobody had to teach me that. That was just all factory setting. Somehow I just knew I wasn't supposed to do that. Don't try to, smash on your homeboy girl. You know what I'm saying? Nobody explained that to me. I just inherently know that's off limits. Like that never ran across my mind. Or if we out and about together and it kick off, I'm not just going to run and leave you. You know what I'm saying? That made no sense because if I'm out and about with you by default, even if I actually care, you know what I'm saying? So in my conscience or just in my factory setting, I can't, even if I want to or it looked terrible, we're either getting out of here together or we're going to the hospital together. But going to your peoples who feel comfortable or some semblance of confidence that if he leave with Calvin will bring him back. Now, he might not be in the state in which he left, but we're pretty confident he'll bring him back. And then it never made no sense to me. I got to go back to your peoples and explain to them why I'm standing in front of them, but you not. You know what I'm saying? Or like one of these, I was just thinking about the first time I got locked up, right? And I actually had to do some time. It wasn't no more than 6 months. But I was working in the kitchen, right? So all the kitchen workers are housed on this particular, I guess, a great big cage, right? With some bunk beds in it, right? So now I become privy to the institutionalized mindset. Now that never made no sense to me. Maybe it's the way my brain wired or not wired up. But even if I was doing 20 years, I cannot fathom within the annals of my cranium how a brother who got locked up 20 years, you know what I'm saying? 'Cause I got vivid imagination. And then see a young homie or whoever come in and desire him, yo. Now to each his own, but I'm just like, God be trying to be a man of understanding. God just want to understand where you coming from, or how did you get to that point, or woo woo, right? So one time we up in the dorm junk, and the brothers got to talking about who's gayer, right? The pitcher or the catcher. Now, for those who may not know that terminology, a pitcher is the dude pitching the woo like on life, right? And the catcher is the dude receiving the woo, a la baseball, you know what I'm saying? So everybody's like, the catcher, he's more, gayer or whatever because he's assuming the role of the woman receiving the woo, right? So I'm like, nah. And then when I took one of these personality tests, it do say I like to debate stuff, right? So, just for the sake of argument, and we ain't doing them, and I just feel like chiming myself into this conversation don't make no sense to me. I say, nah, man. Nah, the pitcher gayer, man. What you mean, man? He the more masculine, woo-woo. Nah, check it out. And I broke it down to him like this, right? And I'm going somewhere with this. So you mean tell me that a man, okay, he unleashed his hind parts from his britches, right? Gaze upon a hairy man, rusty hind parts, and then some type of chemical reaction has to happen inside of his cranium in order for him to achieve an erection and then go up in main mind and all his equipment right there. You know what I'm saying? Man, that's as gay as it get, bro. Oh, young, you don't know what you're talking about. You ain't never know. And hopefully I ain't going. Man, don't none of that stuff y'all said make no sense, yo. The other party, he may not have a choice in it. The pitcher man got a choice, and that's what he chose to do. No, I can't go for that. I don't care how you explain it to me. Nah, that man sweet, yo. You know what I mean? He got a choice, man. He's sweet. Or just like, I thought, I was under the impression, you know what I mean? Because my aunt used to make me read these books about the struggle, segregation, slavery stuff. So all that was kind of formulated in isolation before I was really privy to the world. Because prior to like, maybe say middle school, playing sports and stuff like that, if it wasn't school, church, or sport related, I wasn't a part of it. Like my friends, they might have started hustling and running the streets and all that. I'm in the country chopping wood. Like we still had a wood stove and like the yard had to be tended to. And it made me feel like I was born to do manual labor. It wasn't no laying around and all. It was always something to do. And if it ain't nothing to do, because in they mind, out of mind double workshop, we're going to create something for you to do. Keep you busy. So I was under impression. So when I started going to school and I started becoming privy to certain like social groups and so on, so I started seeing the brothers like run game on each other or seemingly like another brother suffering or a bad situation will cause them joy or, stuff like that, right? I'm like, oh, nah, yo, that ain't right. Or how like, I thought I was supposed to like, let's say me and them brother get into it or it's something real slight. Instead of going, thermonuclear, I thought I was supposed to give him some grace. But the slightest infraction by a proverbial white person, especially a white person in authority, I'm supposed to go hard. Because that's what I've been reading about all the year before I got to y'all. But it was always the opposite. They bow down to the man. I get it psychologically, Stockholm Syndrome, so on and so forth. But even if we look at these various rap beats or even YouTube, a slight infraction, and brothers are hell bent on destroying each other. They will talk about each other for years behind $5. You know what I'm saying? But the man, he get over on you every day. And you just take that, you know what I mean? I was just thinking about like how, even in the whole, like I've never actually dated anybody. What typically happens is, due to proximity of maybe common hobby, geographic, like where we live or mutual friends, somehow we're in close, quarters of each other, a mutual interest gets conjured, and then we decide to go hang out, which is typically me doing what I already do, you just coming along with me. I never understood dating, you know what I'm saying? Or just overly, none of that made any sense to me. Like even, I fell into it for a season, but I never really whoremonger like that. Like I tend to get a bucket when I feel like it, but just smash and I don't even really like you like that, or you might look nice, but maybe your personality, I'm like, why? But then I seen other brothers doing it like it was the thing to do. And then they, whatever stress would come behind that. I'm like, I've always felt like I'm in the world and bubbled in my own world. And it's still like that now. Like I said, I just reverted back to how I was when I was younger. Being fixated, like, back then it was sports, like basketball, football. Everything in my life was constructed around that. So I go to school, but I don't really care nothing about school. I'm just going to school because me going to school will allow me to play basketball. You see what I'm saying? Even now, like, as far as, my spiritual disciplines and attempting to, I guess, live a more life that would be acceptable to the Most High. That and freedom, everything else is constructed around that. I've never really been a lover of money. Granted, by the same token, I wasn't a good steward over either. But now, like, money isn't the goal. Money's the vehicle. Fake fiat currency is the vehicle that I believe in an attempt, which it's got to have a component in there, to get me what I truly desire. Freedom and peace. You'd be surprised how valuable peace is until you ain't had it for an extended period of time. Man, it's beautiful. That's why I get these intuitional epiphanies about how to move. Like I talked about on here, like trying to strive for certain goals, things of that nature. Now, outwardly or in overthinking and overanalyzing, I'll be like, well, have you tried this? Look back at this again. Do, right? But then when I quiet myself, my intuition say, you all right? My spirit isn't uneasy or anything like that. That's all stuff in my mind. You straight. You've been straight all this time. You stopped working. And like I said, like they say the math ain't mathing. Somehow the math shouldn't be mathing, but it's mathing. You know what I'm saying? Like let's say last month I was kind of like not on schedule with my bills before, like I paid the stuff for it's due, right? So I'm feeling kind of whatever about that. Because as soon as it comes, like I'll pay it before it's due. That way it's out the way in case something happens, whatever, right? So I was behind schedule. So I'm like, darn, I'm gonna have to do this, woo. And within a 2-3 day period, I was right back on deck where I normally would have been at. But I didn't go out of my way. And it's been like that I don't know how long. You know what I'm saying? Or then when these magical or mysterious, like bill pop up, like I got it's a regular jump, but I got a foreign car, right? So like tune-ups and oil change, all that's super hard, right? So I got, it was time I had to get 2 back tires and a tune-up or whatever. I think it ended up coming to like $1,400. Man, I ain't got no spare $1,400. But as the time approached when I had to get it done, it magically appeared. True story, y'all. So I had to be mindful to tell my mind, or my spirit tell my mind, be still. But I'm not really like that out of worry. I'm actually like that because of all the years I wasn't a good steward, that I try to make sure I do my due diligence to make sure I've done all that's within my ability to do for stewardship purposes. You know what I'm saying? Even with friendships or associates, I try to be a good steward of those. I respect your personal boundaries. You know what I'm saying? I'll be available. You know what I mean? Typically, I'm super great with just, because I noticed that in the black community, like our communication ain't really good. You know what I'm saying? So typically, I might be busy, but I'll try to respond to you in a timely fashion. I'll try to address whatever you say. You know what I'm saying? Just little stuff. You know what I mean? And that's just stuff I've come to. A lot of fundamental stuff that we, a lot of times in the black community, are lacking. You know what I'm saying? A lack of humility. Let these folk tell it. This be tripping me out. How is everybody that done died, but you got all these unrepentant stories on your jacket? It amazes me how brothers can esteem themselves for, like, let's say hustling, instead of telling the totality of the story. Like, yeah, I'm getting money, woo, right? Like in a glorification, kind of thing, right? But what you're embodying is essentially selling poison to your own people for your own personal financial benefit. How they said, preaching, pimping, and politics. I think hustling in there somewhere. I think that's going on with preaching. You know what I'm saying? Because it's all a hustle at this point. Technically, it's like drug dealers like casting spells. getting somebody to buy something from you that's destroying them, but they can't not buy it from you. You know what I mean? And this is what you portray to the world or whoever you're around, to say I'm a real man, or this is who I am. You know what I'm saying? But you don't tell the story about when you went to jail and you had to join a gang so you wouldn't become somebody bussy. You know what I'm saying? They don't tell that part. You know what I mean? Or when you went to jail, your mans are now smashed on your woman and you couldn't handle it and you wound up in the hole. They don't tell that part. You see what I'm saying? Like we're leading the youth astray with this here. Oh, I was locked up 20 years. I'm a real G. But somebody else was raising your family the whole time you were gone. Make it make sense to me. Even when I was ingratiated in certain activity, none of that still made no sense. That's why I would only break the law. Yeah, I've done stuff that I ain't get caught for, that I probably should have got sent for, by the grace of God. But for the most part, I ain't gonna break back then, I ain't gonna break but so much law that I can handle. You know what I'm saying? Like I could never sell drugs. One, monkey can't sell bananas. Like I can't really sell weed because I'm gonna just burn it all up. You know what I'm saying? And dealing with a whole bunch of people and it's too nerve-wracking for the kid. I don't see how people do it. I get it, but nah. And then like the harder stuff, I'll never forget one time I called myself selling crack. And the dude I was around, he smoked, but I think he seen me like bust a move. And then he like, well, yeah, I get jiggy too. So I'm judging him. I'm like, oh, all right. Well, I'm like, all right, cool, boom. So he's buying me, you know what I'm saying, whatever. He came into some money, spent a bunch of money with me, right? And at the end of all that, he came to the crib because he had spent all his money with me. And he said, man, I just need some bread to feed my kids. I said, man, I quit. I gave him the rest of the crack I had. I gave him some bread. I might have gave him a couple of dollars. And I quit. Then I tried to do it later on again. And just from out of nowhere, they came to me with a whole bunch of quarters, like $50 in quarters. I said, I'll take it. I said, you know what? I quit again, yeah. Here. You know what I'm saying? I did that when I was a coochie broker and was having success at it, not to glorify. And here's like the demonic aspect of this, right? Because typically when you can walk away from something like evil, but there's some recourse behind it. So when I told the young lady that I didn't want to, engage in that activity anymore, she got me locked up. I'm thinking she'd been happy. You know what I'm saying? And then even years before, because my conscience was terrible, I reached out to her and, asked for, forgiveness and woo. And I've done that, like, even before I even stepped foot in the treatment center. After my life got punished into the earth. Because my conscience like, darn, I start like, darn, y'all did them wrong. Did them folk wrong. I got over on them. I felt like poop, yo. Like, man, and I ain't had no child yet. I'm like, this ain't nothing to be proud of. Now, mind you, in the atmosphere or the environment I'm in, they're like, yeah, woo. That's why I know one of the hardest, when you break away from like the world, one of the hardest things to let go of is that false identity. That's why I got classmates who might go to jail for hustling, come home, and instead of just building their life, there's always that allure to get back in there, and then they go back because they can't let go of that old identity. Like even with me, right? Once my old world had been obliterated, I still kind of held on to who I used to be because of the benefit I thought was still attached to it, like certain connections or certain reputation and so on and so forth. And then I might go back into these environments, right? But I wasn't perceiving that I was changing the ways I wasn't aware of. So now I don't feel the same, even though these people are doing the same thing I used to do with them, or they still see me the same way, or to a certain level of esteem and respect. But I don't feel right because I didn't realize I was internally changing. Like they teaching the whole addiction treatment where like this is an inside job. Like I would be bored, right, during the first earlier phase of my isolation, right? And I just want to do something. I want to hang out. I want to be social. And then I might hit up a homie from the past or whoever, go around them, and within 5 minutes, I'm ready to go back in isolation. And I'm like, yo, why do I feel? But again, it wasn't them. They're the same. I'm changing, not realizing it. But there's always a just like, let's say when we left from Egypt to the promised land, there's a transition period before you're able to assume the proverbial promised land. You just don't go from one point to another, because it's in that journey, in that transition, where you letting go of bondage and your old Egypt, and then being prepared to step into freedom. Because if you can't handle freedom, it'll actually turn into bondage. And then you'll be right back. You'll actually be in a similar position in a new space or in a new area. You know what I mean? But that was just stuff I was thinking about. Maybe I, help get y'all a little. Because I would like to believe we're all in some type of transition period. You know what I mean? And the transition is hard because it's uncertain. You don't know if you're doing it right, or what about this, or what if this happened, or woo, 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 woo. That's why they say trust the process, because the process typically ain't going to make no sense to you based on your prior experiences and prior knowledge, because you've never done anything like this before. You might have had experiences, but nothing like this. You might, like with me, it like being honest is good, but it's going to feel uncomfortable if you're used to manipulating. You see what I'm saying? And there's no instant reward for it. This is where you start practicing delayed gratification. Like with me, I put in the work in numerous areas, but seemingly the seeds ain't grown. But I got to trust and believe in the process that the seed will grow in due time. You see what I'm saying? So now I don't necessarily feel the need to chill, but it's, you all right. And as far as all the, let's label it traumatic stuff, you done been through that 2-3 times. So you know how to handle that. Sometimes not just success or the pursuit of success can be uncomfortable or scary. Because again, you don't know if you're doing it right. You're doing something that you've never done before. So you don't know if you're doing it right. Sometimes, so you'll try to get insight but ultimately you the CEO of the decision. And it's all on you. But mind you, the Most High is guiding you. And I keep going back to these analogies of, let's say, Joseph or David. Let's just take Joseph, right? He got done wrong a bunch of times. But the circumstances and the wrongs that were levied upon him were actually putting him on a path and positioning him and training him to then assume a position he couldn't have willed himself into. And on that note, I'm going to holler at y'all. Oh,